Okay, so we're all cleaned up now. We've still got a few things on pegs, but what we've done, we've also gone around and installed everything so it's all being held nicely into position. Now, we won't worry about the tyres for the minute. So we're going to work on white. We've covered spraying white before a little bit earlier. Quick recap. Personally, obviously everyone's got their personal choice for everything, but my personal for spraying white is Tamiya's XF2. Doesn't matter if I'm doing gloss, satin, or flat paint work, I always use a flat paint and then re-gloss afterwards. The trouble is, I find if you're going to use something like X2, which is their gloss version, it just doesn't cover as well as the flat does. Then afterwards, obviously you can turn it then by using gloss coats over the top or satin coats over the top to turn it into a gloss. But for ease of everything, the easiest way I find to do it, as we said before, is to spray it neat. Now, I know a lot of people think you can't spray paints neat and all the rest of it, but certainly it's something I do a lot, especially if it's in small controlled areas. If you're doing, like, you know, obviously at the bottom of an aircraft or something like that, what I tend to do is like a 50-50 mix. First pass, just to give something down. Then I'll go over it with, like, you know, pretty much almost neat paint to give it down there. But then obviously the texture's really rough and horrible. Then I'll go over it with a couple of coats of thin, but it's covered it. It's not like it's going to take 10 coats to cover, you know, something like black pre-shading or something down there first. So we're not going to need gallons for this. So we've just got a small amount in the old colour cup. Check the old flow. Happy how it's coming out. So then, because we're spraying, still very high air pressure, as much as the compressor will do. Okay, so we're just going to spray these resin hubs white. Then do the sides. Make sure you come in from all the angles so you don't get any shadowing. Okay, simple as that. Same on these as well. These will get a bit of a wash because we've got the brakes are on this. And the thing you have to remember with the brakes on an F-16 is there is a left and a right. And luckily for these ones, they're actually stamped all over them L and R. So we know which is the left brake and which is the right, because obviously they look funny directions. Everything else under here, it doesn't matter if it's going to be silver later on or anything else, is going to be sprayed white. Then obviously underneath an F-16, if you ever stick your head in one, you'll see that the actual aircraft themselves, it's like a satin paint job underneath there, or a gloss. If I just roll this out, there is method in the madness. It gives me something to stick this lot to, because I'll turn it into a porcupine. But then obviously what we'll do is we'll go over it with a satin finish, just to make everything look very nice underneath there. But spraying white can be a bit of a trouble, but this is the easiest and fastest way I have found to do it over the years. So we'll work on these nose wheels. And then obviously afterwards we can weather these up either with a little bit of weathering wash or some thin paint, just to make them look a little bit more in keeping. And a little slightly weathered. As I say, Israeli jets, to be honest, their crews keep them extremely clean. It's not like you're looking underneath some F-16s, which can be quite grubby underneath there. They do tend to look after them. So there again, we'll be doing the same thing and not going too overboard with weathering inside the bays and things like that. So I'm going to carry on spraying these little bits white. Okay, so now we've done that. The tyres as well come out very, very nice. Probably see. It's a lovely colour, this one. If you haven't used it before and you want a real straightforward tyre colour, you can't really go anywhere wrong with the actual the Guns acrylic one, H77. It's called Tyre Black, and I tell you what, it's a lovely, because it has actually got that sort of rubbery texture to it, and that isn't been satined or matted or anything. That's straight from the bottle. So then what we want to do now, the white ones are all dry, but I want to sort of seal them in to give them that sort of appearance of a satin look. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some Future and your airbrush, neat, straight from the bottle into the old colour cup. I'm not going to need gallons for this. Okay, and then all we're going to do is a quick light coat over everything. It won't take long to dry either, which is quite nice. Okay, and with this new one, as I say, I've had a few emails recently, people saying, can you use it, what's the difference? There's honestly not much difference. Once it's dry, you know, there's not much in it. The only thing is, it's quite fragrant, shall we say. It's a lot better smelling than the old one, and it is slightly cloudy. But one thing I will be doing, and I'll show you later, is I'm going to dip the canopy just to make it a little bit cleaner, clearer, something like that, just to give it a more glossy type of look. Now the reason for doing the wheels here as well, it will stop the paint rubbing off when we come to fit them to the tyres. Okay, so that's the theory behind that. So we just do those, and these ones here. They're all done very, very nicely. Now what I've actually got here is a little bit of wire. I'll clean all the airbrush out afterwards. But what we've got here is a little bit of wire with those two, these are the mid sections for the compression on that nose wheel. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just placing it down there. And the reason for having it on this wire, one is I don't lose it, secondly I can paint it like it. So for this one we're going to use something like the mithril silver of the actual Games Workshop colours. Okay, so it's got very, very nice stuff to paint with this because you don't get brush marks. So what we do, we're just going to pop along a little bit on our brush. We're just going to paint all these up, and hopefully they'll rotate a little bit, which will make painting even easier. And then if you want to make them really nice, you could pop along with something like the metallizers and give them a polish and all the rest of it, but really I can't warrant firing up the actual airbrush just for something as small as doing a job like that. So those are painted. Okay, we'll give them a little bit of gloss coat as well just to shine them up a bit, but that's for the actual nose wheel areas themselves. So we'll stick that over to one side just to hang there. If we can get them to hang, it'd be lovely. There we go. So what we're going to do now is clear up these little bits. We're going to decal exactly the same thing. If you look at the instructions, there's decals for going all the undercarriage in areas like that. There's only a few of them, but really, trust me, it's well worth putting them on because you've got some nice little markings on there and it'll really liven up the undercarriage and everything else like that. Then what we're going to do is get this all cleared away, make a nice bit of room and really start to bring this one together. Now, whilst we've got the pledge out, I was going to show you in a moment, but I suppose it's easier to do it now. Here's our canopy that we did. Obviously, we've polished it up and everything else, but it's had a flat coat now and it's dry, so what we can do is unmask, pick a corner, okay, and then start working out. Now remember, quite fragile, so just be careful how you unmask it. So obviously we've got quite a bit of tape on here. As I say, when you're putting a blade underneath, just make sure you're doing a lifting action rather than anything else, because you don't want to scratch your canopy. Now, I was very happy with the way that the canopy turned out, because it was quite a mess. It needed that seam line taken out. Okay, and when you unmask, if you get this, don't panic, that's just the wash. So we just take a clean bit of kitchen roll and we give it a wipe around and all of those come off. Now, we would be absolutely fine to put this on any model, okay, but what we want to do is show you how to dip a canopy. Now, as I say, dipping a canopy has two reasons for doing it. If you've got a canopy that it just appears very cloudy, okay, and just doesn't seem to, show the light through and things like that. Let me just get a clean bit of Bounty here. Then what you need to do is really dip it, and it'll just improve the clarity of the glass work. Now, for some reason, we've got little marks in here, which I'm not that happy with, and I can't tell if they're on the inside or the outside. It's alright, they're on the inside and they've just wiped off. Okay, as I say, a couple of marks in this one which we're not brilliantly happy with. Alright, no, it's not where we sanded it or anything else, because we know that's clear, but I can't work out where they've come from, and they appear to be on the inside. Now the thing is, because they're on the inside, what we're going to do is just try a bit of thinners, tiny drop of thinners, just on the inside, just acrylic thinners this is, Okay, and we'll try and wipe them out and see if that does the trick. 9 times out of 10 it does. Otherwise, what we're going to have to do is get in here and polish the inside as well. So we just do the outside. Yeah, and it's got rid of those, so we're happy with that. Okay, so giving it a quick wipe over, we're really clear. But what we want to do is just really improve it slightly. Now, you can dip before you paint up a mask, okay? The trouble with doing that is when you mask it up and you put tape all over this one, sometimes what can happen is that you come along and then obviously you mask it up and then you find that your masking tape has attacked the actual, I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a clean on the inside, has attacked onto the paintwork of the actual, well, it's not paintwork, but the clear itself in the area. Now, if you all just do this like we've done, popped a bit of acrylic thinners on the inside, you'll notice it makes it a lot more sort of see-through and everything else like that. So we're just going to do the outside. That's really clean. But what it'll do, it sort of just gives it that translucent look and makes it look clearer. So what we've got here is a old Chinese pot. In goes our milky coloured Fuchsia. Okay. Now, as I say, the old one, like this, I still have some here, is clear. The new one is milky. Don't panic, it goes clear anyway. Alright, and anyone who doubts that, come and have a look at this one at Telford, because it will be at Telford for the show, and we'll show you how it is still clear. So, okay, what we're going to do now is just grab our little tweezers here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to actually put a tiny bit of masking tape just on the end of the tweezers because I don't want to harm the actual surface of the paint itself, and these aren't exactly nice tweezers, to be honest. And because we've got white paint on the end of our tweezers and things like that, this will just stop that from getting onto our model. So I'm making sure we've got nothing on our hands whatsoever. If you have got some gloves, that would be ideal now. So what we do, grab it between our clamps, just like this. We're going to go in and roll it and submerge it in our clear. Make sure it's completely submerged. Okay, and then we're happy with that. What we're going to do is pull it out and let it drip off. If you touch it in the end, it will help it just to run off. And you want most of it to come off. What you don't want is any, got a tiny bit at the back there, any areas at the back. So you want all the bubbles and everything else to run off. And because it's a large one, this, we're just going to take it off towards the rear, holding it up, all off, and then we're just going to place it down on the towel here and let the excess run off. Okay, and then we're just going to let it sit just like this. Now this is where, if you've got another one of these, you'll literally pull this one back in, as I'm going to do in a moment, and then place it over the top, allow air to get underneath, but don't let any dust particles or anything else or spray or anything stick to the top of this. Otherwise what you'll find is that it will stick and go through. So all you want to do now is just have a look at it, make sure you're happy with how it is, because obviously you don't want to ruin it at this point by having nasties or anything else hanging on it whatsoever. So we're happy that that one is. We're going to let that dry and we can have a look afterwards. Okay, so F-16 back, canopy all dry, so let's see if you can see. Nice crystal clear canopy, really looking the part now. So now it's really time to start getting this thing together. First up, let's get it on its gear. So what we're going to do is take that canopy off because it's very fragile. We don't want it to get ruined. I'll cover that up as well. Obviously, because we're now into this late stage, we don't want to end up with scuffs and everything on. So one little technique I do, you get these bits of foam, which normally comes in a bit of a square, which comes in the aftermarket thing. Aries are good for them. So what I tend to do is pick out, which shapes have we got here? I've got one for the tail, which I'll stick over the tail. We should have one for the wingtips. Usually one side's a little bit thicker than the other. And we just poke these on to stop it rubbing and being scuffed around. You can probably hear now it's scuffing, and obviously that's the tips of the ventral fins down the bottom and one of those nose sensors. Now the other thing as well, we want to protect up here at the front. So what we're going to do is just take a little bit of tape. Okay, and we're just going to protect this here, because obviously we might need a bit more than that actually, because it is obviously all deckled in that. What we're going to do is take 90% of the tackiness out, and your skin is great for it. So what we do, we just have that down there, and we'll put that under there like that. Same on the other side, back of the hand works great because you'll lose about 50% of the stickiness from it. Okay, and that will go on. And hopefully when we flip this thing over now, it should rest on all these blocks, which it does, which is a minor miracle. So as you can see, like the tail one is down on there first, okay, and then obviously the tips and this front area as well. So we're all nicely protected up. Actually, if I do it this way, you can see better. So the area we're going to be concentrating on now is obviously the main gear well for the moment. So we've already put the wheels together. They're a little bit dusty. Basically we cut them off and you just put them in. Dead simple, they just click together. It's as simple as that. They're a nice good fit. Same with the nose wheel. So for the moment, just get rid of the nose wheel bits. So we don't want that bit, we don't want that bit. The other ones are over there, so I'm just working out what we do need. That's a nose wheel bit, that's a nose wheel bit. So this is what we're left with these areas here. So if we get this bit of wiring out of the way. Now I've still got to put a decal on the battery, but we've got this wiring here, as we said before. Now if I angle the camera a little bit better, you'll be able to see it properly. Okay, now this wiring loom here, what we're going to do, we're going to repaint it, okay, black, and it's actually going to act as the brake lines coming down the main gear. That way we can slip it in between the wheel itself down here, and it will go into the baseboard when this eventually is mounted onto the baseboard. But for the moment we just need it out of the way, so we're just carefully going to get rid of that bit of blue tack. Now I have got a bit of wash which has got inside, so we can just give that a rub, and we'll just get rid of those. Okay, so the main thing, what we're going to do, obviously we won't put the wheels on first, but we've obviously put these together a little bit. We've got these last ones in. So just for the moment, we are just literally going to test fit them on. So I've got to remember which way these go round. That's the upper one, that's the lower. Okay, so it's actually going to go on here. So we just need to see how it fits for the moment, just to see how the holes are and everything else. And they seem to be a very nice fit. Got no trouble with that one at all. And then obviously we'll check to see if these door activators fit as well. See, these might take a little bit more fiddling to get those in, but again, I must admit Aries do a lovely job on these things, and they do fit in there very nicely. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a little bit of glue just out of sight, just down here. This is just onto a scrap piece of tape so I don't ruin my worktop. We get that down. We're going to be using obviously super glue, okay, and we're just going to glue this little guy into position, okay, and we'll just push him in. That's it. Don't do that, just put the tape in the glue pot. So anyway, we just hold that in there, and that should work that in very nicely, and that will hold in that position. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll do glue on the other side, so we'll put that in first this time to save a bit of a mess, although the side should be easier. Okay, these are the activators that hold open the main door, but the nice thing is with these is obviously Aries have used the original parts for the actual locations. Okay, so just make sure they're square, don't push them right up against the wall, otherwise they're going to be curving forward. Okay, so that's those in. Now I'm just going to check and make sure I've got this sorted for the gear, because we don't want to have any problems. It is to the front. So what we're going to do is just pop a little bit of glue on each of the points, the contact points. Okay, and then we're just going to fit these in here like so. Again, making sure you're in properly. So what you've actually got is the little foot comes forward. We're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, this one in as well. Let's put the other one in first. Now luckily there's quite a large area to this to go in for some reason. The bigger one to the rear doesn't want to go in this side. Let's just get a knife and we just scoop this away. That's what that was. To be honest, and I don't know how it got it there, that was a tiny little bit of welding from when we were doing the soldering and everything else. It's like a weld on there. Okay, we're going to get that in again. There again, don't lean it to the back because otherwise you're going to go too far. Now before all of that goes off, we're going to fit in these other ones. So I say, remember how you have these set in here, and then we've got, probably be better to put these in first. Now these are the little hole ones, and these should, if I remember rightly, go to the inside. In here we've got a little place up, so make sure you get the left and rights sorted out on those. So that's going to fit over the ring system on the back, and this is where a pair of tweezers come in handy to push these in, and this will give you the distance is correct. So we just hold them on there and then squeeze that into position. Might be better to do it the other way actually. So we'll put a tiny bit of glue on the end. Now the reason for doing little tiny bits of super glue is we can come back later on and fix this thoroughly into position. Okay, for the moment he's just hold on just like that. Okay, he's in, we're happy. And we're trying to get this to clamp in and to push in and everything else like that. And you should be able to straighten up the main bar. So I don't know how well these are going to fit down into here. So what we're going to do is, because we're resin on plastic, I'm just going to snip off the locating tab on that end. Okay, and then that is going to fit up into there, and then we can glue that into position. So we're happy how that one is just in there. We'll do exactly the same on the other side. So it might seem a little extreme, but it'll certainly pay dividends later on. So that's on there now. So what we're going to do is just take a tiniest drop of super glue, place that on there, hold that there, squirt a kicker. Same with the other end. Remember, less is best. Should be able to let go. Okay, same with this one. If you have got one of those tiny little applicators for super glue, that's perfect for this job. That's that one in as well. Okay, we've got quite a bit going on at the moment just with the electrics and everything else. So it's one of those things that I've been doing this for hours now. So I'm going to explain really what we've been doing. So okay, you can probably see at the front here, we've got the nose wheel is all sorted in. We've got the wiring free now. We've sprayed up the inside of the door, so that can be installed in a moment once we've weathered it up a little bit. And then we can figure out how we're going to stick on the actual front wheel well lights, which are going to go on there. But that's really the easy one. The main problem we've had is down the back here. Now you might remember, if we can get the camera in, okay, you can see just down here we've got this black loom of wires. This was that big bunch we had hanging out. Now I've taken one to the other side, goes down onto the far side, you can't see, and then tracks along the back. I've painted them black, the same as we've done with these as well, so you might be able to see them going up around the back, but you know, they've blended in, they look like real hoses at the end of the day, so that's the main thing. We haven't fixed this centre pylon. I just wanted to make sure it could all go fit in there before we bucketed it all down. The gear now is all locked in position and very stable. The wheels aren't fitted totally to position yet, because I might make a flat spot as if she's just got weight on wheels as it comes down to land, and obviously, you know, they need to be rotated. You've got a couple of cleats at the rear of these, which are explained in the instructions. Probably to get down, you might see it on the far back side of this one down here, there's a little cleat. They go to the rear, not to the front, so they are directional, so you need to actually put them in the right place. So that's really what we've done. We've got the wiring now running down the back, and to be honest, I've taped it into position at the moment because what I need to do is wire a pair of wires down to the rear of the main gear struts. Now it's the inner struts that come down, not the big heavy duty ones, because they're on shock absorbers at the back. Down here, they're going to come to here, and then they're going to dangle because that's where they're going to go into the main board. Now we've run one each side because obviously we've got 4 power cables coming out of this one, 2 lives, 2 negatives separately. So I split them up and got them going down each side. In reality, obviously you only have 1 brake line going down each one, but for the purposes of this, because obviously they're electrics and they actually are doing something, we're going to need 2. So that's those on. The other thing as well, whilst I was going, I actually installed 2 hooks onto these. Checking the references, they only have 1, so I'm not sure why we've got 2, but the heavyweight gear doors only have 1, and then the one at the front. Now, I have to be careful because I've actually got paint on my hands, and I don't like handling model when I've got paint on me. The other thing we've done, you might be able to see, at the front here, let's see how well you can see them, we've got a few wires. They're very hard for you to see. If we bring you out, I can bring you in. We've actually got, you might be able to see them behind my finger here, some cables. Now these are coming off of these activators here. We're going to loop them round and feed them back down inside. It's all getting very tricky down here. Going to go back down, just down in there, loop down. If you look at the references, you'll see them. This is the hydraulic feed to the geared doors. There's 3 lines that run round and they're always blue. So they're going to go down onto the inside of that. And that will be it for the wiring at the rear for this door area, but you can probably see them a bit better now. They've actually gone in there, considering their live power lines running into this one, they're pretty good. The only thing I've still got to do back here is weather and do the battery. It's got a couple of labels on it, decals on there for the sell by date jobbies. But that is really it. It's really coming to life now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that decal fitted onto this one. We're going to get the doors fitted, which is pretty straightforward. They're literally just going to go on like this, and we've got a front part, when you've got them the right way around, is going to go on. They're going to have a quick wash with a little bit of dark dirt. It's going to go onto these, wiped over, so it's just literally an effect rather than, you know, big panel lines hanging out, all the rest of it. Same with the front one. The front one, as we were saying, is on a loose fit, so we can change over the nose wheels, which one it's got on there. So that's just the small one at the moment, but now we can do weight on wheels. That's just that pylon moving out of the way, and she's really starting. At the moment it's a little bit high because we've got the higher nose wheel on there, but now at least it's off the floor, it is on its own gear and really coming towards the end. Okay, so we've gone around and we've installed this front well, and you may be able to see on the old close-up, you might be able to see down in there that we've actually now installed that front light. All I used for that to get it on there was literally just a piece of old resin block, okay, and then just glued the lights to the front, which gives us those. Now I know what you're thinking, they're not like white lights like the other one, but trust me, when they're on, they're white, okay. So that's that done. The wheel wells are in now, all the gear is installed and everything else, so we're really happy. Now whilst we've got it on its back, what I'd like to do now is install the pylons. Now a lot of people always said to me, how do you get such a nice clear pylon join? Secret to that is to slightly bore out, so it's running over instructions, is to use something like this. So this is like one of those watchmakers type things, but it's Phillips head, round headed. So all we do, we go up to all the holes where the pylons are going to be and just give them a bit of a round out. Because when you notice, obviously, these ones we put through ourselves with a drill bit, so it's quite sharp. But if you look at the pegs on the other side, they're going to be rounded. And by doing this, just a quick little round off job like this to each hole, it will make the fit more flush. Okay, now there's 2 things that it can be. It can either be literally what we're doing now, which 9 times out of 10 it is, or it may be where you've joined the 2 halves of the pylon together, you've actually got a step running across, okay? Now, have a look at your pylons, and it's, you know, it's no biggie this. Look for the best side to be pointing outwards, okay? Either the better weathered or something like that. Like personally, I think those would be quite nice for outers. So what I'm going to use, this is personal choice, is a tiny spot of glue. So I'm using a tiny spot of super glue on each one. Just a tiniest spot, okay? We're not going to flood it or go around the lot, but literally all we're trying to do is pop these in, line them up in the right position. hold and glue. Now the reason for using a tiny drop of super glue versus coming along with something like you know, our normal liquid cement or something like that is that I'm going to be taking this one to shows for many months probably. You know, it would be on the floor model stand, and what I don't want it to do is literally take a big hit during transport and end up having the situation where it's pulled half the paintwork with it, it's bent the plastic off or something like that. Having a couple of little spot welds like this, if it does take a big hit, what will happen is it will fall off. It will literally just come off in one, might take a tiniest bit of paint. I can literally, another spot of glue, put it back on. So if it does has a hit, that will be the end of it.